Chapter 182. Danzo's approach has indeed worked. If he wanted to hand Garashi over to San Crypsis and let Garashi die as an apology, the shinobi on the field naturally wouldn't agree. They can't just watch Danzo cut off his own hands and feet during this critical period of the war. But if it's just an apology, it doesn't seem to be unacceptable. After all, it's good for young people to suffer some setbacks. At this moment, a scream came from the outside. Garashi Jonin, you can't go in now. There's a Jonin meeting inside. It's okay. I'm also a Jonin. It's natural for me to participate in the meeting. But beside you. Before her voice fell, Garashi and Pakura opened the door and walked in side by side. Seeing Garashi's idlers, Ryoma slammed the table and stood up. Shimizu Garashi, you're really getting more and more ridiculous. You actually dare to bring outsiders to a Jonin meeting. Special Envoy Pakura is not an outsider. Garashi smiled. Or will soon be on the same side. Pakura? Many Jonins were shocked. The Scorch-release Pakura, who is known as the hero of San Crypsis. Seeing everyone's eyes on her, Pakura nodded gracefully. I'm here on behalf of San Crypsis to discuss the details of the formal cooperation. Cooperation? Everyone was a little confused. Didn't Danzo say that the negotiations had broken down? Ryoma quickly reacted. As expected of Danzo-sama, you can still promote cooperation in this situation. The rest of Danzo's supporters also flattered him. So this is also part of Danzo-sama's plan. Danzo-sama, who can make San Crypsis send troops, is undoubtedly the hero of Woodleaf. Danzo was a little confused. Raza didn't mention cooperation? Is it because I exempted them from the mission? Thinking of this, Danzo's spirit was lifted, and he said proudly, I just did something insignificant. It's not worth mentioning. Not worth mentioning. At this time, Pakura suddenly interrupted. This cooperation seems to have been facilitated from beginning to end by Garashi Jonin, right? The meeting room suddenly became silent. Why does it feel like the truth is different from what Danzo said? Danzo squinted his eyes and smiled. Haha. What you see is actually just the surface. Go back and ask your Kazekage-sama about the real situation. Pakura shook her head. Before I came here, the Kazekage told me that he could persuade the village to participate in the war because of Garashi Jonin. As for you, Pakura pondered for a while. I'm sorry, but Kazekage-sama didn't even mention your name. Pfft. Hearing this, many people couldn't help but laugh. So all of this is just your imagination, Elder Danzo. Danzo's face turned pale as he picked a lucky spectator. Uchiha Fugaku, is this funny? Fugaku shook his head again and again. I remember something happy. My son is 2 years old now. At this time, Pakura added. Not only that, but the Kazekage-sama also specifically mentioned to me that the San Crypsis only trusts Garashi Jonin. So one of the conditions for us to officially participate in the war is that Garashi Jonin will be the commander of both sides. The meeting room was silent for a moment, and in the next moment it exploded. Isn't this decision too hasty? Although Garashi Jonin is very good, being the commander of both sides is still not enough to convince the public, right? I think it's good. Didn't you say that the one who can facilitate the cooperation between the two sides is Woodleaf's hero? Garashi also knew that Raza's proposal was actually not good. He wanted to further provoke the confrontation between him and Danzo. However, he didn't care. Just like this time. Will Danzo give up if he doesn't do anything? There's only 1,000 days of being a thief. How can there be 1,000 days of guarding against a thief? Since he can't avoid it, he will take the initiative in his own hands. Therefore, instead of refusing, Garashi looked at Danzo with a smile. For Woodleaf, some sacrifices are inevitable. I think our elder Danzo shouldn't care about personal power, right? Danzo slammed the table and asked in disbelief. What did you say? You want me to step aside? Seeing Garashi trying to seize power as soon as he came up, all the Jonin's eyes widened. Too ferocious. This is the dark shinobi of the shinobi world. The reason why they are afraid of Danzo is not only because of his strength, but also because Danzo has never followed the rules. No matter in which world, people who don't follow the rules will be feared, because this kind of person's behavior can't be judged by common sense. Garashi sighed. In fact, I don't have much interest in the position of commander of the Sand Crypsis Alliance, but when I heard Elder Danzo's words outside, I suddenly realized. For the sake of Konoha, some sacrifices are inevitable, so I have to sacrifice my precious personal time. Danzo's chest heaved up and down, as if he was going to explode in the next moment. So angry, this kid actually used his words to block his mouth. As Danzo's #1 follower, Ryoma hurriedly said, "Shimizu Garashi, you are too ignorant. The Kazekage asked you to be the commander, and you still know that you are with Leafs. Shut up. Are you trying to sow discord and destroy the cooperation between the two sides?" Garashi said righteously. "Or are you actually a spy paid by Rock Crypsis?" Uranian Dragon Horse's chest was filled with depression. So angry. Wasn't destroying the cooperation an excuse they used before? This little rascal was a fast learner. Looking at the sullen faces of Danzo and his followers, Fugaka felt refreshed as if he was drinking ice water in June. It turns out that this Danzo who has been suppressing the Uchiha is nothing more than this. A bold idea arose in Fugaka's mind, but it was quickly denied by himself. Garashi can be so domineering, but he can't. After all, Garashi has the support of most of Woodleaf, while he only has the Uchiha behind him. Continue to endure, it will get better. At this time, Danzo also calmed down from his rage. For Woodleaf, of course, I will not be stingy with the power in my hands, but I want to test whether you have the capacity to lead Woodleaf forward. Otherwise, rashly handing over power will only put Woodleaf in danger. Seeing Danzo kick the ball back to the other, Ryoma and the others couldn't help but praise him. As expected of Danzo-sama, he easily found a reason to counter the other party. "Then, how would you like to test me, Elder Danzo?" Shushi asked with a gentle smile. Danzo smiled a few times. "The simplest way, of course, is to test my strength as the commander of the Allied forces. If I am easily defeated by Rock Crypsis, it will damage the morale of the Allied forces." Chapter 183. A Test of Strength. All the Jonins were faintly excited. As the disciple of the second Naruto and the close friend of the third Naruto, Danzo's strength is beyond doubt. And Garashi, as a famous hero on another battlefield, even eliminated the 7 legendary swordsmen of the shinobi world. His strength is absolutely not to be underestimated. It will be very interesting to see these two fight. They are not worried about the two getting injured. One is experienced, and the other has the Flying Thunder God. No matter how they think about it, it shouldn't be a big problem. Everyone came to a remote and empty canyon. For so many years, you are the first one who dared to take the initiative to attack this old man. Standing opposite, Danzo said in a strange tone. "For the sake of Woodleaf, I can only offend you," Garashi said apologetically. Hearing Garashi saying "for the sake of Woodleaf," Danzo felt sick in his heart. This was his catchphrase. Thinking of this, Danzo's heart was filled with anger, and he directly spat out a vacuum wave. Garashi didn't dare to neglect and hurriedly dodged to the side. Danzo's wind release was able to break Susanu's defense. Although it was done with the help of a summoned beast, it was still amazing enough. The wind blade cut through the ground like tofu, cutting through a whole rock, including the ground where Garashi was standing. The cut monolith fell down the canyon. Shushi stomped hard on the missing rock and used the recoil to jump to the other side of the canyon. However, this time Danzo was faster. Surrounded by the blue chakra, he arrived at the other side of the canyon in advance and launched a kunai attack. But Garashi's reaction wasn't slow either, and the moment he landed, he raised his kunai to block. Clang! Although Danzo's strength wasn't as good as Garashi's, with the help of his speed, he was able to fight equally with Garashi. While the two sides were in a deadlock, Garashi suddenly noticed a black mark on his body. Seal of the Self-Karma Curse. Caught you. Danzo's eyes flashed with joy. He didn't expect this kid to be so careless. But just as he was about to strike, he realized that he couldn't move his body either. Seal all lives equal. Due to the concealment of a part of the sealing technique, Garashi had set up a seal on his body in advance to prevent a sneak attack. It allowed the caster's chakra to be connected to the caster's body to achieve the same sealing effect. This could be considered as some inspiration he had gained from the Cthulhuism Society's techniques. Damn it! Why is this kid's sealing technique so strange? Helpless, Danzo had no choice but to release the seal. Then he quickly distanced himself from Garashi. Since the sealing technique didn't work, he naturally wouldn't choose to continue fighting Garashi in close combat. His speed is so fast. Garashi didn't care about Danzo's Fuinjutsu, but he was surprised. Is this still the same old Danzo? It seems that the arm in the manga is really a big burden on his body, Garashi secretly pondered. Danzo's speed in the chakra mode was not inferior to his sage mode. Of course, sage mode didn't just increase speed. Facing Danzo in his heyday, Shushi also put aside his previous impression of him and directly entered the one-time sage mode. How can I enter sage mode so quickly? Danzo was quite confused. It had not been long since Shushi learned this skill, and it was difficult to transmit information remotely. It was impossible for him to describe all the details of the battle, so he really did not know why this was happening. Although he had some doubts, Danzo didn't dwell on it. He quickly formed hand seals and spat out a strong hurricane from his mouth. Wind release True Void Jade. Like a machine gun, the True Void Jade pierced the air and shot towards Garashi. Wind release, Thousand Face Wind. Garashi directly used wind release to counterattack. Thousands of small wind blades formed a gust of wind to meet the opponent. The two gusts of wind converged together, and even the weather changed. The dark clouds that were originally hanging in the sky were blown away, and a burst of terrifying power surged out in all directions. In this gust of wind that made people unable to open their eyes, Garashi rushed forward. His heavy punches compressed the air in front of him and blasted it out. Like a mobile battery, every punch was heavy firepower suppression. When it fell on the hard rock, a small crater appeared in an instant. However, Danzo's shriveled body displayed a flexible speed that was completely inconsistent with his image. While easily dodging, he didn't forget to spit out a hurricane to counterattack. One strength suppression, the other speed cutting. The staggered aftermath of the collision raged on the surrounding ground. In just a few minutes, the hard ground was crisscrossed with narrow gullies. Ninjutsu, Taijutsu, Fuinjutsu. Are these two monsters? It's hard enough for me to specialize in one, but they don't even have a weak point. I don't understand the Fuinjutsu competition, but in ninjutsu, Danzo is stronger, and in taijutsu, Garashi is stronger. It's not surprising that Danzo has this kind of strength, but Garashi has grown to this point in just 2 years. It's really terrifying. Everyone's impression of Shushi's strength was still stuck in the rumors, and they couldn't believe it. In their opinion, Shueisha should have relied on the Flying Thunder God Jutsu to contend with Danzo, and finally managed to draw. But so far, Garashi hasn't even used Flying Thunder God, and he's already able to fight back and forth with Danzo. They simply couldn't believe their eyes. On the field, the battle was still ongoing. After roughly understanding Danzo's strength, Garashi didn't hold back. He took out a shuriken from his tool bag and threw it at Danzo. This old man has been waiting for you. Summoning Jutsu, Nightmare Taper. Danzo summoned the Nightmare Taper as fast as he could, and then issued an order. Blow these shurikens away with maximum power. Don't let any of them get close to this old man. In the next moment, a gust of wind rose. The wind raged in the canyon, and before the shurikens could get close, they were blown away. Haha, Flying Thunder God is a technique developed by Nidame Naruto. This old man knows it better than you. Before he could finish his words, Garashi suddenly appeared in front of him and sent him flying. How is this possible? Danzo, who was flying upside down in the air, couldn't believe his eyes. But before he could figure out what was going on, Garashi appeared above him like a shadow, lifting his right leg high and chopping down like a sharp axe. Danzo could only cross his hands in front of his body to block the attack, and then a huge force hit him, and then he slammed into the ground like a cannonball. Boom! The earth trembled violently, and dust flew everywhere. Garashi teleported into the dust again, but this time he was blocked by Danzo, and then he was forced back by a gust of wind. While he was forced back, the surrounding dust was blown away by the wind, allowing everyone to see the situation in the field. A huge pit appeared in the ground, like a basin, and Danzo was coughing up blood weakly. Chapter 184. So powerful. Even Danzo isn't Garashi's opponent. This kind of battle, are they really jonins? But among these comments, there were some discordant voices. Too bad. Doesn't this Shimizu Garashi know how to respect his seniors? Yes, obviously Danzo-sama has been lenient, but he's still pushing him step by step. It's really outrageous. Hearing the discussion around him, Garashi frowned slightly. Indeed, he seems to have ignored Danzo's age. If he really injured Danzo, he would have to kneel on the ground and beg him not to die. I know. Danzo threw away the kunai in his hand and looked at Garashi with fear in his eyes. When I first used the kunai in close combat, I set a seal on you, and you also left me the flying thunder god jutsu. This kid is too patient. Obviously he already set a backup plan, but he waited until he was the most careless to use it. Garashi smiled elegantly. Remember to return the gift when you give it to me, it's polite. Danzo's eyes were gloomy. Is he mocking him for not being polite? Humph. Don't think you've won. Wind release, vacuum ripple. This hurricane was composed of countless small wind blades, blowing across the sky and cutting the dust in the air. Earth release, earth wall. Garashi finished the hand seals in 1 second and slapped the ground. The ground instantly bulged into a stone wall, blocking the path of the hurricane. Tear. The stone wall blocked for a moment, but it was soon destroyed by the hurricane and turned into dust. However, Garashi took advantage of the fact that the earth wall blocked his view and used earth diving jutsu to sneak to Danzo's crotch. With Leaf's secret body jutsu, Millennium Kill. Hearing Garashi deliberately shouted the name of the technique, Danzo instinctively tightened his chrysanthemum. If he was injured by this technique, what dignity would he have left as the commander of the battlefield? Danzo subconsciously poked the air with his backhand. Damn it, I was fooled. Danzo suddenly reacted, but it was too late. When he turned around, he saw Garashi holding a kunai and cutting towards him. Danzo shrank his head and let Garashi shave his head. This strong hairstyle coupled with Danzo's cold and serious face made many of the onlookers laugh out loud again. Although he didn't know what they were laughing at, the cool touch on his head made Danzo feel ashamed. Under normal circumstances, with his combat experience, he wouldn't be fooled, but this kid didn't play by the rules. How could he use such a despicable move like Millennium Kill to trick an old ninja into sneak attacking him? Garashi was also somewhat helpless. At this time, Danzo could be said to be at the peak of his life. He was very strong in all aspects, and there were almost no obvious weaknesses. Of course, even if that was the case, it wasn't that he was completely helpless. However, the problem was that this was only a test, and not a battle to the death. If he didn't go all out, not to mention winning against Danzo, it would be difficult to even secure a draw, and the result of a draw would be easy for Danzo to take advantage of. After all, he couldn't even beat Danzo, who was holding back most of his strength. But if he goes all out, he can't guarantee his strength. If he injures or cripples Danzo, it will inevitably become an excuse for Ryoma and the others to accuse him of being ruthless to his own people. It can be said that from the beginning, this wasn't an equal battle. So, I must win this battle without seriously injuring Danzo, which means that I have to take advantage of his weakness. However, there is only one chance, and before I use it, I have to change his mentality. Seeing Danzo's gloomy face, Garashi said while dodging. By the way, Danzo-san, there is something I forgot to tell you. In order to strengthen the alliance between Woodleaf and San Crypsis, I and Kazakage-sama have discussed the marriage between the two sides. On the Woodleaf side, you will be the one, and on the San Crypsis side, Chiyo Elder. For the sake of Konoha, some sacrifices are inevitable. Besides, Chiyo Elder was called the flower of shinobi when she was young, so in comparison, it's actually Chiyo Elder who is sacrificing herself. Hearing Garashi's words, Danzo felt that his mentality was about to explode. What does this kid mean? Is he mocking me for being ugly? Danzo was also famous for his hands. No, that's not the main point. Bastard. Do you know what you are talking about? Garashi innocently said. I know, I'm just concerned about you, Danzo angrily said. You don't need to worry about this old man's affairs. How can that be? You are my respected senpai. Garashi was suddenly shocked and looked at Danzo with horror in his eyes. Is that rumor true? Although he knew that Garashi didn't have good intentions, Danzo couldn't help but ask. What rumor? Garashi lowered his voice and said, It's the rumor that you are eager to have some kind of relationship with Naruto. Sama. No wonder Naruto. Sama gave birth to Asuma when he was 42 years old. It turned out to be to dispel your fantasy. Danzo almost vomited blood, trembling with anger. Don't confuse me with that old pervert. He's just a pervert. No, what do you mean this old man is eager to have some kind of relationship with him? Now. Garashi printed hand seals in a second. Jinjutsu mind reflection. His vision suddenly turned into a fog, but Danzo didn't panic. Instead, he calmed down from his manic state. Jinjutsu? So this is your purpose for provoking me? Haha, ridiculous. Danzo didn't think much of it. He wasn't a weak-minded ninja. It's just a jinjutsu. He can break it in an instant. But at this moment, he saw the scene in the illusion. That was the memory that left the deepest impression on him. Surrounded by the elite forces of Goldhorn and Silverhorn, they proposed that someone be the bait. Seeing this, Danzo subconsciously said, I'll be the bait. Suddenly, everyone looked at him in disbelief. Danzo didn't care about other people's eyes. He just looked at the shocked Hiruzen, with pride in his heart. This time, it's finally this old man's turn to be Naruto. Why did I say this old man? Just as Danzo was thinking this, he suddenly heard Nidame say, Okay, Danzo, you will be the bait. We withdraw. Danzo, Sigma degree. No. In the outside world, Danzo screamed in despair. Danzo-san, wake up. Pulled back to reality by Garashi's voice, Danzo opened his eyes in a daze and saw Garashi with an apologetic face holding a kunai to his neck. Around him, everyone was looking at him strangely and whispering, Is Danzo-san's heart so fragile? Listening to that voice, I feel like he's going to cry. Yeah, it sounds so sad. Garashi is too gentle. In order to save Danzo-san's face, he deliberately used Jinjutsu after fighting for so long. Hearing these voices, Danzo was so angry that he vomited blood and fainted. Chapter 185. In Danzo's view, fainting seems to be the best way to solve the current situation. Unfortunately, with Garashi here, he couldn't faint even if he wanted to. Seeing Danzo vomiting blood and fainting, Garashi was even more anxious than Ryoma and the others. He immediately used his divine palm technique, and then used several medical ninjutsu on Danzo. It was equivalent to giving him a full set of physical examination and rehabilitation treatment. Then, Danzo's complexion recovered at a speed visible to the naked eye, and even became ruddy. This time, he had no choice but to wake up. With a light cough, Danzo woke up from his coma. Seeing this, Garashi explained, Danzo-san, your body is a little weak, but don't worry, I have cured you. Danzo gritted his teeth. Then I really have to thank you. Garashi said with a look of concern. I have always been very concerned about my subordinates. Subordinate? Danzo obviously didn't understand his own identity, and it took a while for him to react. You, Garashi comforted him. Don't worry, it's only in name. You are a senpai, how can I command you? Hearing Garashi's words, Danzo felt a little better. However, Shushi was the disciple of Hiruzen's disciple, and he was now Shushi's subordinate. In that case, he was 2 generations younger than Hiruzen. Thinking of this, Danzo wanted to faint again. Garashi turned around and looked at everyone. The problem has been solved perfectly. Let's go back and start the meeting again. How is it a perfect solution? It's obviously a perfect solution to the person who raised the problem. Everyone couldn't help but feel shocked. Such a young commander of the Allied forces. Even if you look at the history of the ninja world, there has never been such a person. But even they didn't realize it. They were just shocked. But no one felt that it was unreasonable. Not to mention Garashi's contributions and achievements in the Eastern Camp. Just in a few days, he cured the poison ninja, facilitated the Sand Crypsis, and even defeated Danzo. Whether it is strength or ability, he is too outstanding. With complicated and indescribable feelings, everyone returned to the conference room and sat back in their seats. Danzo also subconsciously returned to the main seat, and Garashi's kind reminder came from the side. Elder Danzo, please move to the side to familiarize yourself with your position. Danzo wanted to attack immediately, but when he saw Garashi's kind eyes, he felt a little guilty. This little bastard must be trying to trick this old man again. Humph, this old man won't be fooled. Thinking of this, Danzo moved away with a wooden face. This scene caused everyone to click their tongues in wonder. Elder Danzo, who had always been tough and indifferent, actually gave in front of a junior. Of course, they knew that this was only temporary. With Elder Danzo's personality, there's no way he'll let this go. Sitting in the main seat, Garashi quickly entered the zone. Seniors, please explain the current situation in detail. Seeing that Garashi did not pursue the matter, everyone secretly heaved a sigh of relief. They were really afraid that the two of them would fight again. Thinking of this, everyone hurriedly spoke. At present, Rock Crypsis has sent 16,000 ninjas. Our main force has 11,000, and various special forces have 2,000. As for the small countries, Rock Crypsis has 1,700, and our side has 3,100. It seems that the number of troops is more than 2 years ago, but Garashi knows that this is the result of squeezing out the potential of the war. Pakura timely spoke. Sand Crypsis can't compare to Wood Leaf and Rock Crypsis. We can send at most 6,000 people. However, everyone was excited when they heard this. 6,000 people? That's great. That's enough. It seems that we will win this war. The quality of the ninjas of the 5 great villages is not comparable to the small villages. The 6,000 people of Sand Crypsis are even more important than the 20,000 people of the small countries. At this time Pakura added, before Sand Crypsis officially joined the war, Hidden Rain has invaded our borders many times. After joining the war, they are likely to be afraid of our retaliation and choose to side with Rock Crypsis. Hearing Pakura's words, the ninjas on the field frowned. The Rain Country is bordered by 6 countries at the same time, including the Fire Country, Earth Country, and Wind Country. After years of war, the domestic ninjas have suffered heavy losses, but at the same time, the combat strength of the domestic ninjas has greatly increased. Coupled with Hanzo's momentum, there are even signs of them becoming the 6th great ninja village. Of course, if there is a choice between Hidden Rain and Sand Crypsis, there is no doubt that Sand Crypsis will be the first choice. The so-called 6th great ninja village is just the idea of those small ninja villages. In the eyes of the 5 great ninja villages, the gap between the top 5 and the 6th is essential. Therefore, after thinking for a while, they comforted their allies. Pakura-sama, don't worry, Hidden Rain won't change anything. Moreover, Hidden Rain has always been indecisive. They may not really side with Rock Crypsis. Garashi said, if we can see it, Rock Crypsis can also see it. In this case, they are likely to pay a huge price to win over Hidden Rain. Fugaka nodded. Anoki's words are indeed that bold. Akimichi Chiza hesitated. Then should we also win over Hidden Rain? As soon as his voice fell, someone objected. Rock Crypsis has no way out. They will try their best to make promises. But we can't. The village won't agree to pay a huge price to win over a dispensable Hidden Rain. Akimichi Chiza insisted. We have sacrificed enough. Why can't we solve the problem with money? The opposing Jonin also insisted. Of course, it's not a problem if it can be solved with money. But the problem is that the village has no money. Seeing that they were quarreling, Shushi interrupted. Let's make some preparations. We can win them over, but the price we have to pay must be within our control. At the same time, we must also be prepared to deal with the Rain Village's participation in the war. Aburame slightly pulled his collar and said in a low voice, the Rain Village itself is nothing to be afraid of. What's terrible is that demigod of the shinobi world. With the power of his poisonous fog, he can be an army on the battlefield. Everyone was silent. Hanzo the Salamander, this is a name that can't be ignored. In the last Shinobi World War, he defeated Wood Leaf's army and the young Sannin by himself. And even just because he survived and was given a name, he made the Sannin famous in the Shinobi world. From this, one could see just how powerful he was. In this silent atmosphere, Garashi said, if he really stands opposite us, let me and Chio Senpai of Sand Crypsis deal with him. Naturally, he won't underestimate the other party. In addition to his poison, Hanzo's strength is also very strong. His taijutsu can defeat Mifune of the Land of Iron, and his water release is even rated as unsurpassable. Therefore, a strong helper is necessary. Chapter 186. In Sage Mode, it's hard to find someone with a higher resistance to poison than Garashi. As for Chiyo, she's a poison expert, and her puppets are also immune to poison. Just from this point alone, she's definitely the most suitable helper to deal with Hanzo. But the problem is that the people in the room don't know this. Garashi, even if you defeat him. Fugaku vaguely skipped over someone's name. Hanzo the Salamander is still a super difficult and powerful character to deal with. Choza also had a dignified expression. The Salamander's poison mist is too strong. The average person can't even use half of their strength in front of him. Pakura had a strange look on her face. She wanted to say that the poison mist is useless against Garashi, but she was worried about leaking information about Garashi, so she could only vaguely say, if it's Garashi and Elder Chiyo, then there should be no problem. But that's Hanzo the Salamander. Oh, there should be no problem. You have to have confidence in Garashi. The ninjas in the room were surprised. If it was just Garashi alone, they might suspect that this is a conspiracy by San Crypsis to encourage Garashi to take risks. But even San Crypsis Chiyo is also in the room. This can only mean that San Crypsis has extraordinary confidence in Garashi. It seems that the reason why the San village agreed to send troops this time was not only because Shushi saved their people, but during this period of time, something very important must have happened, and Shushi must have played a vital role in this change. Thinking of this, they looked at their new commander with even more respect. Seeing that everyone was silent, Garashi smiled and said, "That's all for the time being. If there are any changes in the future, we'll talk about it later." The meeting ended. After everyone left, Garashi smiled and looked to the side. "Elder Danzo, there's something I forgot to remind you." Hearing these familiar words, Danzo subconsciously refused. "This old man will never go on a blind date." "Don't worry, it's not that," Shueisha said with a smile on his face. "Yanai-senpai is now my subordinate, so don't overstep your boundaries, Danzo-san. Otherwise, it will be very troublesome for me." This bastard. Danzo's heart was filled with anger, but he suddenly understood. No wonder this kid has been targeting me today. He was warning me not to attack his people. He is much more decisive than Hiruzen. Danzo's eyes were filled with fear. In the past, he didn't think that he would be so close to death, but he didn't expect that he would be so close to being killed by Shueisha. Not only had his plan failed, but he had also lost all his face and authority. Looking at Garashi's resolute and sharp eyes, he had no doubt that if he continued to have designs on the people around Garashi, the next knife that reached out would not be to cut off his hand that had crossed the line. When he thought of this, some of his original dark thoughts quietly dissipated. This old man is definitely not afraid. This is just a strategic show of weakness. I will wait until later to find an opportunity to take revenge. Endure. San Crypsis Village. After receiving the news from Pakura, the San Crypsis Jonins couldn't believe it. Garashi Jonin actually won? And he won so cleanly. That elder Danzo really couldn't play with him. Kazekage-sama is farsighted. He could see at a glance that the winner would be Garashi Jonin. Raza's expression was strange. He was optimistic about Garashi's future, but more importantly, he was optimistic about Garashi's future. He really didn't think that Elder Danzo would lose so thoroughly in the first round. As the Kazekage, of course I can see further than you. Raza lightly nodded. After flattering for a while, one of the Jonins said, Kazekage-sama, do we really have to listen to the command of Garashi Jonin? Although he is indeed very powerful, he is still one of Woodleaf's people. They originally wanted to provoke the confrontation between Garashi and Danzo, so that the position of San Crypsis would be more valuable. But who would have thought that Garashi would be so fierce that Danzo would be forced into a corner? What's even more unexpected is that Shimura Danzo, who is famous in the shinobi world, is so useless. As a result, they were in a difficult position. Raza slightly shook his head. Don't worry, Garashi Jonin is different from Danzo. He won't be so short-sighted as to suppress his allies before the war is over. Hearing Raza's words, everyone was a little relieved. What worries me is Rock Crypsis's response. Raza changed the topic. They should be able to see that our position is not so firm. If they are ruthless, they might use us as a breakthrough point, and use heavy losses to scare us away. Hearing this, everyone's face suddenly changed. What? Then aren't we blocking the disaster for Woodleaf? No, we absolutely can't let them succeed. Raza slightly nodded. This is just my guess. In short, let's pay more attention and focus on protecting ourselves. Rock Crypsis Village. Sand Crypsis has officially sent troops, and the leader of the coalition is still that 12 or 13 years old kid. Kitsuchi was shocked when he heard the news. Are they all crazy? Magic Leech said excitedly. It seems that they are already anxious. Even if they send troops, there is nothing to be afraid of. Anoki shook his head. Danzo and the others couldn't do it in 2 years, but he went to the Sand Crypsis and succeeded. Can such a person be underestimated? Kitsuchi calmed down from the shock. Such a person should not be underestimated. No, it should be said that no matter how much we pay attention to him, it is not enough. They have also fought with Danzo for 2 years. Naturally, they know how difficult the other party is. Such a person can defeat Danzo, and even make him hand over his power. No matter how you look at it, such a person is not simple. Magic Leech asked. Suchikage-sama, then what should we do next? Anoki's expression was dignified. First of all, Hanzo the Salamander, tell him that I agree to those conditions. Magic Leech hurriedly said. Hidden Rain is simply asking for too much, Anoki said indifferently. People who are not willing to give up anything will not get anything. Hearing what he said, Magic Leech could only say angrily. Humph. I hope they won't die from their own greed. Anoki pondered for a moment and said. Try to gather those mercenaries and wandering ninjas to participate in the war. Kitsuchi hesitated. Those guys have always been greedy for money. If the situation is not good, they may run away or even betray us. Then use money to smash them. Make them feel heartache even if they run away or betray us. Hearing his father's decisive tone, Kitsuchi nodded heavily and said, I understand. After thinking for a moment, Anoki added, By the way, ask Daimyo-sama to borrow his guards and protectors. Forget it, I will go myself. In this regard, everyone naturally has no objection. Anoki took a deep breath. Also, contact Rashi, and tell him that I can admit defeat and apologize to him. Kitsuchi and the other jonins were shocked. Father, Tsuchikage-sama you. Anoki's expression remained unchanged. Go, compared with the interests of the village, my honor and disgrace are nothing. Chapter 187. 2 days later in the Rain Village. Shimizu Garashi? Hanzo said in a dull voice. He defeated Shimura Danzo, and even became the commander of the joint army of the 2 villages. It's been a long time since I've seen such a dazzling genius. Hanzo-sama, what should we do? The jonins looked at Hanzo with worship in their eyes. Unlike the other villages, the Hidden Rain Village's jonin meeting was just a decoration. All the affairs of the village were decided by Hanzo. However, not only did they not resist, they even gladly endured it. The land of rain is bordered by the land of fire, the land of earth, and the land of wind at the same time. Being able to grow up in such a harsh environment, and even showing signs of becoming the 6th great shinobi village, it can be said that it's all thanks to Hanzo. Demigod is just a respectful title for him in other villages. But in the Rain Village, his title is God. At this moment, God said, I wanted to wait for them to continue fighting, but now it seems that we have to make a decision. What are the conditions they offered? A Hidden Rain jonin said, The conditions given by Woodleaf are the same as before. There's not much change. But Rock Crypsis not only agreed to our request, but also agreed to help us replace Sand Crypsis, after defeating the alliance of Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis, becoming one of the 5 great villages of the shinobi world. As his voice fell, the breathing of everyone in the room quickened. Their ambition is to become the 6th great village of the shinobi world, replacing Sand Crypsis as one of the 5 great villages of the shinobi world. This is something they didn't even dare to think about. But now Rock Crypsis took the initiative to put it on the table. Hanzo-sama agreed to them, so that our dreams can come true. Yes, anyway, we offended San Crypsis. Instead of being punished afterwards, it's better to make a decision now. But in these restless voices, there were also voices of opposition. Rock Crypsis even put forward such conditions. Doesn't it mean that even they are not optimistic about their future? Although the Rock Crypsis offer is very tempting, we might lose ourselves if we're not careful. While the two sides were arguing, they both looked at Hanzo. Their opinions were only for reference. Only God could make the decision. Hanzo raised his head and coldly said, "New 5 great countries?" It was just a nice way to put it. If you're not strong enough, no matter how much support you have, it's useless. In the end, you might even become their puppet. Everyone nodded thoughtfully. Then shall we choose Wood Leaf? However, Hanzo shook his head. Rock Crypsis is unreliable, but I don't trust Wood Leaf even more. Ah, why is that? Hanzo didn't directly explain, but turned to another topic. What do you think of the sudden emergence of an organization called Akatsuki? Hearing Hanzo mention Akatsuki, all the Rain Jonins were somewhat confused. Is there such an organization? I seem to have heard of it. I heard that it was established by a few kids. An organization dedicated to the peace of the shinobi world. Peace? Haha, who still believes in this kind of thing? It's really stupid. Don't underestimate them. When I heard about this organization, I heard that they had already recruited a lot of people. Hanzo said, although it's childish, those 3 kids aren't simple. I sent people to follow them, but they all failed without exception. After failing several times in a row, they couldn't help but attack. As a result, speaking of this, even Hanzo's eyes showed a hint of shock. After the battle broke out, they didn't even last half a minute. How is that possible? The Jonins on the field couldn't believe it. Hanzo has always been cautious, and those who can be sent out to perform tasks by him are definitely not weak. How can such an elite ninja be defeated in such a short time, and at the hands of a few kids? After the shock, some people realized that something was wrong. Hanzo-sama, since they failed, how did you know this information? Hanzo had a strange look in his eyes. Of course it was them who told me. After they were defeated, those brats talked to them about the concept of peace, and then let them go. What? They took the initiative to let the enemy go. The Jonins almost doubted their life. How can such naive ninjas live until now? Hanzo gently rubbed his fingers. However, they did bring back some interesting information. Those 3 brats are a group of 2 boys and 1 girl. Their talent is outstanding, but the ninjutsu they use is completely different from the mainstream ninjutsu of our Rain country. What does this feature make you think of? A Jonin asked tentatively. Is it the 3 kids taught by Wood Leaf's Jiraiya? As soon as his voice fell, the rest of the people shouted excitedly. Impossible! Didn't they die when we went to invite them? Could it be a native genius of our Rain country? They were so excited not for no reason. In their view, being invited by Hanzo-sama is the honor of every citizen of the Rain country. Faking death is absolutely a blasphemy and betrayal to the Rain country. Hanzo's face was gloomy. Humph! Where did so many geniuses come from in this world? 1 is fine, but 3? Do you think I'm stupid? With his control of the Rain country, how could he not discover the existence of Jiraiya in 3 years? In fact, he thought that with his reputation in the Rain country, it would be too easy for him to subdue those 3 kids. So he just let them do as they please and acted as if he didn't know the existence of Jiraiya. After all, although his strength is far stronger than Jiraiya at that time, but in terms of background and teaching, he can't compare with Jiraiya, who is the direct disciple of the 3rd generation Naruto. Unfortunately, when he sent his men to invite them, he only got the news that those 3 kids were dead. At that time, he felt sorry for them, but now it seems that those 3 kids were playing with him. They didn't want to be my men, they even faked death to escape, and now they came out to establish some Akatsuki organization. Hanzo said in a low voice. I have to suspect that their appearance is a nail deliberately buried by Wood Leaf. A nail that will gradually invade and control the Rain country. Hearing this, all the Jonins cursed loudly. Damn it, Wood Leaf dares to do this. Especially that Jiraiya, Hanzo-sama gave them a way out, but he still dares to scheme against us. Hanzo raised his hand, and the room quickly became quiet. In short, first send someone to contact Rock Crypsis, and then keep an eye on the Akatsuki. If they are really Wood Leaf spies, this time they won't be quiet. Chapter 188. In the temporary hospital, there was a burst of cheers. Great, no Sama doesn't need to leave anymore. I told you Garashi. Sama is the most reliable. I'll always like Garashi-sama. At the beginning, when they knew that Nanoyu gave up the position of the hospital director to Garashi, many of the new nurses were angry, thinking that it was really like the rumors said, that Garashi was the one who replaced the director. But now, there was only one thought in their mind. That is Garashi-sama is too reliable. For a former medical director, he can fight against Elder Danzo, and even win. His sense of security is too strong. Garashi, I don't know how to thank you. Nanoyu sighed in her heart. She never thought that it was Garashi, who she watched grow up, who helped her get rid of the nightmare. If you want to say thank you, it should be me. If it was someone else, they wouldn't let a child like me stay in the hospital. Garashi sincerely thanked her. If he didn't stay in the Wood Leaf Hospital, many of his plans wouldn't have been able to be carried out. Just because of this? Nanoyu couldn't help but laugh. And at the same time, she couldn't help but sigh in her heart. This kind of thing is really wonderful. A moment of kindness can change a person's life. Even if we don't talk about the past. Garashi looked at Nanoyu with a subtle expression. This time, the person who took the risk to use rumors to help me avoid the risk should be you. Nanoyu-sama, right? Nanoyu looked a little embarrassed. If I knew that you were prepared, Garashi, I wouldn't have needed to do this. No matter what, her scandals had a certain negative effect. Of course not, Nanoyu-sama, you helped me a lot. Garashi secretly sighed. As expected of the former elite of the route, the walking witch, she was too sensitive to these rumors, and helped him to fill in the loopholes. At that time, the attitude of those jonins towards him was ambiguous, and it may have been the effect of these rumors. If most of the jonins were on Danzo's side at that time, then the effect of his pressure would be greatly reduced. That's good. I was worried that it would cause trouble for you. Of course not. I'm not that easily influenced. Just as the two of them were talking, sounds of admiration and envy came from the outside world. Is this the legendary ninja sword of Kirin? Will this saber explode when it hits someone? It was too dazzling. Can you lend it to me to play with? Can you tell me what it's like to be removed from the 7 legendary swordsmen? Hearing these voices, Garashi smiled and said, Looks like Shui Mu and the others have arrived. I'll go and welcome them. In the outside world, Asma, who was surrounded by people, waved his hand and smiled. Actually, there's nothing much to see. It's just a saber that can explode. For me, finding a large saber and tying a few explosive talismans on it will have the same effect. Get rid of the 7 legendary swordsmen? After all, they died so quickly that I didn't even have time to be nervous. Hey, don't go, I haven't finished. I haven't finished yet. However, the crowd couldn't be bothered with him, and they all headed in another direction. Lord Garashi, Commander-in-Chief. Oh, Garashi is really my lifelong enemy. Asma sighed and suddenly realized that something was wrong. Commander-in-Chief. The ninja next to him joked. Then your lifelong enemy is really incompetent. You don't even know that Garashi-sama is now the Commander-in-Chief of the Western Front. No, he's now the Commander-in-Chief of the Wood Leaf San Crypsis Alliance. Asma was in a trance. How many days has it been? Why do I feel like the whole world has changed? The ninja next to him added. By the way, what's your current position as Garashi-sama's lifelong enemy? Vice Captain of the Special Operations Team of the 7th Brigade on the Eastern Front. Asma became less and less confident as he spoke, and in the end, his voice was almost like the buzzing of a mosquito. Guy, who was a beat slower, reacted at this time and excitedly said, That's amazing, you're indeed Garashi-senpai. Mizuki glanced at him and said, What's the fuss about this kind of thing? In the eyes of a fanatic like him, it's normal for Garashi to become the Commander-in-Chief of the Shinobi World Alliance. This time Choza, who was watching the show from the side, was puzzled. This kind of thing, don't you want to verify it? Guy was confused. Verify what? Verify that Asma is Senpai's lifelong enemy? Chose's mouth twitched. Don't you think it's strange for such a young battlefield commander? Moreover, Garashi has only been on the Western Front for a few days. Guy laughed loudly. What's so strange about that? That's Garashi-senpai. Mizuki coldly said. The prejudice of a mediocre person. Even Asma, who was sighing that he was born at the wrong time, said, it's unreasonable to judge Garashi by the standard of ordinary people. Well, ordinary geniuses. Not only the three of them, but the reaction of the entire team was the same. Seeing all of them unreservedly trust Garashi, Chose's honest face showed a trace of shock. What a strong trust. It's hard to imagine what they have experienced in the past 2 years. Strength and perfect character are not enough to win everyone's trust. As a leader, the most important thing is to lead everyone to victory. Only those who can continuously lead everyone to success can gain everyone's unreserved trust and support. Many people who noticed this were shocked. Could it be that Shushi hasn't even experienced a single defeat on the Eastern Front? Thinking of this, they had more confidence in the coming war. Maybe Garashi can really lead with Leaf to victory. At this time Garashi, who was walking toward them, suddenly looked to the side with a serious expression. Who's there? Come out. The next moment, 3 people in black coats jumped out from the ground. To be able to hide their presence in front of so many people, these 3 people are definitely not simple. The surrounding people were shocked and quickly took out their kunai to be on alert. Garashi was also a little surprised. It's the 3 of them? Nagato, who was blindfolded, sighed. I told you this wouldn't work. Yahiko laughed. Haha, who told our identity to be a little sensitive? As people of the Rain Country, swaggering into Woodleaf's camp is not appropriate. Conan sighed. Then don't you think, as people of the Rain Country, it's even more inappropriate for us to sneak in? Is it? Yahiko asked without any self-awareness. Nagato and Conan sighed together, and then pointed to the surroundings. Yahiko turned his head and saw hundreds of Woodleaf ninjas vigilantly surrounding them. Seeing this, Yahiko decisively raised his hands. That, if I say this is a misunderstanding, would you believe me? Chapter 189. Soon, the 3 were invited to the conference room for tea. Don't be so serious. It's like you're interrogating a criminal. Yahiko laughed. What? The people sent by Hanzo don't even dare to admit their identity? Danzo sat opposite and sneered. Although we're from the Rain Country, we're not with Hanzo. Yahiko looked serious. Let me formally introduce myself. My name is Yahiko, the leader of Akatsuki. Garashi asked softly. Akatsuki? An organization dedicated to peace. Yahiko nodded heavily and winked at Garashi. Hey, Garashi, do you remember us? Danzo suddenly became active. Huh, do you know each other? Yahiko said casually. We met at the Chunin exam 2 years ago. Danzo looked at him suspiciously. To be able to sneak in without being discovered by most people, with such strength, it's impossible that you can't even enter the Chunin exam, right? We snatched the Hidden Rain spot, of course. We didn't dare to make a big deal out of it. Yahiko spread out his hands. See, I told you we have nothing to do with Hanzo. Danzo was a little unhappy that he didn't catch anything. So he asked, Commander, what do you think? Shushi didn't care about his sarcasm. Instead, he looked around cautiously. He couldn't help but be careful. The scene in front of him overlapped too much with the scene in his memory. Danzo was on the side, and they came for peace. If he was replaced by Hanzo, he could perfectly replicate the scene of Nagato summoning the Geto Mazo. Therefore, he must be wary of Kuroto. Of course, with my eyes, Garashi casually said, then looked at the 3 with a smile. Yahiko, Nagato, Conan, long time no see. Yahiko patted Nagato Conan's shoulder and said with a smile, I told you that Garashi would never forget his old friend. Conan rolled his eyes at him. Then why did you sneak us in and cause trouble for Garashi? Yahiko was at a loss for words for a moment. He stammered. It will be very embarrassing if we are rejected. In fact, the 3 of them were also incomparably shocked. Compared to 2 years ago, they were able to create Akatsuki, and become the leader of Akatsuki, which could be considered as a small achievement. But Garashi directly became the commander of the two great ninja villages, with Leaf and San Crypsis. Compared to them, he can definitely be regarded as a big shot. Therefore, they were also worried that a big shot, like Garashi, would not remember their old friend whom they had only met once. After some jesting, Yahiko said seriously, "We are here for peace." Peace. The pain caused by the war is enough. If the war continues to expand, it will not be a good thing for both sides. Yahiko took a deep breath and slammed his head on the table. So, I implore you not to let the war continue to expand. Naive stupid, Danzo sneered. You want the cooperation between the two great ninja villages to be cancelled because of your words? Garashi rarely agreed with Danzo. Woodleaf has been passively participating in the war. You should say that to Rock Crypsis. Moreover, the war has reached this point, and it is no longer something that can be changed by one or two people. Everyone is tied to the war chariot, and only at the end can we stop. Seeing Garashi's firm attitude, Danzo slightly raised his eyebrows. Humph. He is much more decisive than Hiruzen in this regard. Hearing Garashi's words, Yahiko didn't feel embarrassed at all. Haha, so it's still not enough? At this time, Nagato asked puzzledly. Garashi, you also want peace, right? Why do you refuse us? Of course I want peace, but the pursuit of peace has to be based on the foundation of reality. Garashi shook his head and said, if you really want peace, ending the war as soon as possible is the real way to bring peace. Nagato was in a trance. Ending the war as soon as possible. Danzo was already impatient. He came here today to interrogate them about Hanzo, not to listen to them talk about some peaceful game. You three, if you have nothing else to say, get out of here. He was now convinced that the three of them were not Hanzo's people. Such naive ideas have no room to survive in Hanzo's hands. Garashi knocked on the table with dissatisfaction. Danzo-san, be polite to my friends. Danzo proudly turned his head away. Looking at Garashi's performance today, he didn't want to argue with this kid. Conan looked at Garashi gratefully. Thank you, we took the liberty to disturb you today. Don't mind it, but as a friend, I still have to warn you. Garashi said in a low voice. It's best not to talk about peace. Try to persuade Hanzo and Tsuchikage. They won't be as easy to talk to as I am. Yahiko nodded seriously. I understand, we won't take the initiative to talk to them. Won't take the initiative to talk to them. Garashi sighed. Forget it, it's better this way. I need to find an opportunity to get the Rain Tiger Freedom Technique. I need to inject chakra into the rain and control it freely. I can even control it from a long distance. If I can figure out the principle, maybe I can make up for the flaw of the 5 sense manipulation. The essence of Genjutsu is still the use of chakra, but the difference is that the general Genjutsu is used to interfere with the opponent's chakra, while the 5 sense manipulation is used to control the flow of chakra in the opponent's body. At this point, when encountering an enemy with a strong perception of chakra, or a creation of a different system like Zero-Tailed, the opponent may be able to detect something wrong. Of course, it's only to detect the problem, just like Zero-Tailed, who knows that it's difficult to break the Genjutsu. But for Garashi, who pursues perfection, even a flaw is enough to be an eyesore. Therefore, he needs a more subtle way to use chakra. For example, integrating chakra into the air, or injecting chakra into the moonlight like Infinite Tsukuyomi. Using these mediums as carriers to get close to the target, so as to achieve the deceptive effect of chakra. At the same time, seeing that Nagato and the other two walked out of the camp safely, Xiaohei, who was observing secretly from the tree, relaxed. Fortunately, no one found his Rinnegan. Xiaohei secretly breathed a sigh of relief and gritted his teeth. We can't delay any longer. We must let Madara appear in front of them as soon as possible to guide them. Otherwise, when his Rinnegan awakens, and he realizes that powerful power, it will be difficult for him to remain in awe of Madara's identity. But with Madara's current physical condition, it's impossible to deceive them. We have to find a spokesperson among them. And I also need to officially appear in front of Madara with a reasonable identity. Well, who should I find? Chapter 190. As an older baby, who has been longing for maternal love for 1,000 years, Black felt that it was too difficult for him. He spent thousands of years waiting for the reincarnation of Ajura and Indra's chakra. Failure after failure, waiting again and again, finally let him see hope in Madara. But what's the result? Madara just opened his Rinnegan, but he will soon die of old age. This is something he absolutely can't allow. Fortunately, Madara didn't want to sit still and wait for death. He found the young Nagato and used him as a container for his eyes. But there is still a problem. That is how to ensure that Nagato goes on the route he plans. The best way is to introduce an Uchiha Madara to replace him in carrying out the plan. Madara didn't think of this, but the problem is that he is too old now, and a qualified spokesperson is not so easy to cultivate. Therefore, all this can only be handed over to the hard-working Black. Secretly cheering himself up, Black pondered again. This year's Uchiha is still too weak. They can't even find a person who can support the role of Uchiha Madara. Madara's spokesperson is not so easy to be. His strength is too weak. A test will reveal flaws. Naturally, it is impossible to convince Nagato. There is also a crucial detail, temperament and temperament. These inner strengths can't be cultivated overnight. Although I found 2 little guys who barely passed the test, they are too young. The older one is only 5 years old. It's difficult to support them in Madara's current state. In addition to being distressed, he glanced at the people in front of him. When his gaze swept past someone, he suddenly had a flash of inspiration and stopped. Wait, why do I have to choose a spokesperson from the Uchiha clan? The reason why he chose the Uchiha is mainly because the power of this clan is easy to grow quickly, and most of them have an extreme mentality, and are easy to be bewitched. They will not resist the sensitive identity of their ancestor as much as outsiders. But this doesn't mean that other candidates won't be able to do it. He is the son of the god who created the biggest conspiracy in the shinobi world. So fooling a little wood-leaf ninja is just a piece of cake for him. Thinking of this, he became more and more excited. Even in my eyes, this kid's strength and talent can be ranked in the top 10. Moreover, to be able to become the commander of the coalition forces at this age, his tolerance is not much inferior to Madara. Most importantly, he seems to be a person who values ties. At this moment, a few shurikens were shot at him quickly and accurately. I've been exposed. Black Zetsu didn't say anything else, but his ability to hide and escape was absolutely top-notch. Almost as soon as the shuriken appeared, he quickly fled. In the next moment, Garashi teleported over and used Otama Rasengan to break the tree trunk. Is it Black Zetsu? Standing on the broken part of the tree, Garashi's eyes showed a hint of confusion. Nagato has obviously left. Why is he still here? And that kind of terrifying gaze, is he targeting me? Garashi couldn't help but think this way. If the 7 legendary swordsmen can target him, then Black Zetsu can naturally do the same. The future is not fixed, and treating the future as a fixed fact will only put oneself in a difficult situation. However, treating me as prey, playing with fire is a very dangerous thing. These thoughts flashed through Shige's mind. In the outside world, Danzo and the others also chased after him. Enemies again? Looking at the traces on the tree, Danzo's face was very ugly. One by one, they lurked under their eyes. Did they use the wood leaf camp as a toilet? Coming and going as they please? It's a very strange ability. Even I couldn't see how he escaped. Shushi nodded with a serious look on his face. Seeing this, a jonin who supported Danzo said. When Danzo-sama was the commander, there weren't so many people lurking around. Enough, no need to say more. Danzo directly interrupted. Danzo-sama, you? The jonin who doubted him asked. In the face of the overall situation, there is no need to doubt an attack. We have to unite. Don't let the enemy see us as a joke. Danzo said righteously, but in his heart he was cursing. Idiot. Just after the transfer of power, we found 2 groups of people lurking around, and Shimizu Garashi found them. Doesn't this mean that the defense was too lax when I was in power? Even the spies didn't find them before? Thinking of this, Danzo felt tired. Looking at the people under Hiruzen, and then looking at the people under him. The gap between them is so big. How can he play with Hiruzen? Shushi naturally saw through Danzo's thoughts, but he was too lazy to point it out. Instead, he looked at the big hole in the tree with a dignified expression. Oh, Black Zetsu is really cautious as always. In Garashi's view, Black Zetsu's strength is definitely not weak. A pig that had lived for 1,000 years would have become a demon. How could Black Zetsu, the younger brother of the immortal of 6 realms, be weak? Even Guy, who opened all 8 gates, needed the last blow to destroy part of Madara's body, but Black Zetsu easily pierced Madara's heart. You know, Madara is beyond the definition of a mortal. Even if he is unprepared, his sage body is enough to be immune to most of the damage. Obviously, his strength is not weak, but he doesn't even have the most basic resistance. Maybe this is an opportunity to study the yin-yang release. At the same time, he was also coveting Black Zetsu's body. After all, it's based on the yin-yang release. At the same time, on the ground more than 10 kilometers away. In Garashi's eyes, Black Zetsu's strength was not weak, but after escaping for more than 10 kilometers, he quietly showed his head. What kind of monster is this guy? Even Madara and Azura didn't notice my existence. How did he do it? Black Zetsu was not afraid of the strength of the other party, but he was afraid that the means he relied on to survive was broken. For him, who had been hiding in the dark for thousands of years, suddenly exposed to the sun, the fear and confusion in his heart were almost infinitely magnified. This perception? No, it's not perception at all, it's intuition, based on his strong soul. Just because I looked at him, he found my existence. This kid's talent is more terrible than I thought. In fact, Shushi wasn't as powerful as he thought he was. The only reason Shushi was able to detect his presence was because Shushi was aware of his existence. But Black Zetsu didn't know this, so he hesitated. The failure rate is too high to design someone with such a keen intuition. However, in the end, the psychology of gambling prevailed. I'll try. If I fail, I'll change the target. Chapter 191. The previous episode didn't affect the course of the war. On the 3rd day, the 3 armies marched to the front line. One was led by Danzo, and went straight to the right wing of the Earth Country. The other was led by Raza, and attacked the left wing of the Earth Country. The last route was led by Shushi, who stood between the country of Earth and the country of Rain, cutting off the route of reinforcements from the country of Rain. Rain Country. Hanzo's expression was calm as he looked out of the window. Tell me what you know now. The Jonin behind him hurriedly reported. According to the information we have, the leader of the Akatsuki seems to have gone to Woodleaf to fight for peace, but the information is limited to some fragmentary information. As for what they talked about in the meeting room, we don't know. Peace. Hanzo's eyes were full of ridicule. If that's the case, then can they still come back? What they are doing is nothing more than putting on a show for the people of the Rain Country. Once we are defeated, they will be able to persuade Konoha to retreat, and then under the cheers of everyone, they will naturally take over the Rain Country. Oh, Woodleaf really played a good hand. Hearing Hanzo's analysis, the Jonin on the field were shocked and angry. Damn, these Woodleaf ninjas are too despicable. If it weren't for Hanzo-sama's wisdom, we might have been deceived. Hanzo-sama, what should we do now? Woodleaf and San Cripsis allied forces have already blocked our door. Hanzo was silent for a moment, and after a long while he said, I was thinking about whether to pretend to be a stalemate with them, and drag them here as an explanation to Rock Cripsis. But now it seems that they won't give me this opportunity. Let's go. Let me meet the young commander of Woodleaf. On the border between the Rain Country and the Earth Country, the rain continued to fall. It seems that the people of the Rain Country don't dare to come out. Of course they don't dare to come out. They are just a small country. How can they have the courage to fight against the allied forces of our 2 great villages? What a pity. I wanted to try out my new skills on them. Hearing the discussion of the people below, Garashi looked to the side. It seems that the people of the Rain Country will not come out for a while. Chiyo-senpai, do you want to set up a tent to avoid the rain? Chiyo's eyelids drooped, looking lazy. Forget it. You, the commander of the coalition forces, are drenched in the rain. Why should an old woman like me hide? Because of Sasori's assassination of the former Kazakage, in order to atone for her sins, she was more concerned about the village's missions. However, she still didn't like a certain person who dared to pimp her out. Garashi didn't care about her attitude. A person with a sharp tongue, but a soft heart was much better than a person who said nice things but stabbed him in the back. Then I'll have to trouble Senior Chiyo. Garashi was speaking when he suddenly looked ahead with a serious expression. On the other side of the plain, a masked Hanzo came out with a large group of hidden rain ninjas. Garashi asked with a smile. You actually chose to fight head-on? I thought Hanzo-senpai would let people sneak attack and leave a deep impression on us. Hanzo's tone was calm. I did have this plan, but I have always been a cautious person. When I confirmed it for the third time, I found something wrong. So, you can ask your men to come out. Garashi smiled. You're worthy of being a great shinobi senpai. My little thoughts really can't be hidden from you. However, let them come out. I always feel that you should have only found the location of some people. And now you're deliberately tricking me, right? Chiyo looked at Shushi with a strange expression. When did this little devil arrange it? He even managed to hide it from her. If the target of the ambush was not a very vigilant person like Hanzo, maybe Garashi's plan would have succeeded. Humph. You think this old man can't do anything? Hanzo bit his finger and made a hand seal. The next moment, a huge salamander fish appeared on the battlefield. The moment he summoned the salamander, the hidden rain ninjas around him were very experienced and fled to both sides. Poison spray. A thick purple poison mist was sprayed out from the salamander's mouth. Even from far away, it gave people a feeling of dizziness. Wind Release Team Attack. Under the order, the Wind Release ninjas gathered in advance used their ninjutsu. Wind Release Great Breakthrough. Originally, it was just a small whirlwind, but when gathered together, it evolved into a large tornado and blew towards the poison mist. Their reaction is not slow. Hanzo was slightly surprised. The enemies he encountered before didn't have the ability to gather so many wind release ninjas like this. After all, with the huge size of the salamander, for the compound wind release to be effective, at least hundreds of people, and they must be proficient in using C-class ninjutsu. But don't think that this is enough, shinobi counterattack. Yes, Salamander answered clumsily, and then gathered a large cyclone in his mouth and counterattacked with a large-scale wind release. The two tornadoes violently collided with each other. The wind roared and finally burst into countless wind blades blowing in all directions. Even the poison mist was completely stirred up, and almost covered half of the battlefield. Haha, still too young. Hanzo was laughing loudly, but when he saw the scene of the poison mist dispersing, his smile froze on his face. The Woodleaf Sancrypsis ninjas were wearing gas masks, and calmly stood in the residual poison mist. On the contrary, many of his men were directly poisoned because they didn't escape in time. He couldn't equip every one of his men with antidotes. Bastard, this kid actually equipped everyone with gas masks. How can he be so rich? Hanzo roared in his heart. The price of gas masks is not cheap. It's okay to equip a few people, but to equip an entire army, it's something he didn't even dare to think about. After the anger, he calmed down. They can wear gas masks, but what about you? Most of the ninjutsu are from the mouth. Wearing a gas mask means that most of the ninjutsu can't be used, and daring to bind their hands and feet in a fight with him is no different from actively seeking death. Moreover, his salamander only needs 5 minutes to spray again. It's impossible to wait for the poison mist to completely dissipate. Don't worry, I don't need gas masks. Garashi said. The shadow clone hiding under the ground instantly dissipated, and then the refined chakra returned to his body. Usually, using half of chakra to refine natural chakra is of course a very dangerous thing. But this time is different. This time they have the initiative, so naturally they can prepare in advance. In the next moment, the sage mask appeared on Garashi's face. Next, let me experience the strength of a shinobi demigod. Chapter 192. Sage Mode. Hanzo naturally heard about Garashi's signature ability, but he didn't take it seriously. Oh, what an arrogant little devil. On the other side, Chiyo took out the scroll that sealed the 10 people. Not putting this old woman in your eyes, what an arrogant old devil. Hanzo choked and angrily said. You old woman, why didn't you stay in the sand crypsis and wait for your death? Instead you came out to join in the fun. Chiyo drooped her eyes. I have to find something for myself to do. Well, let's stop reminiscing about the old days. If we continue, a certain little guy will gossip about this old woman. With that, Chiyo manipulated Jinsong's 10 people to attack Hanzo. Hanzo pulled off his mask, water release, great waterfall technique. He wore the mask not because he was afraid of being poisoned, but because he was worried that the poisonous gas from the transplanted poison sac would affect the people around him. Although if the poison sac ruptured, he would also be affected, but almost no one knew about that secret. Seeing the turbulent waterfall rushing toward her, Chiyo's expression was calm. What an annoying guy, always liked to use us puppet masters as a breakthrough point. While speaking, she manipulated the 3 Buddha, monk, and Dharma puppets to activate the 3 treasures suction. A powerful suction force was generated from the center of the 3 puppets, which diverted the flow of water that was rushing toward Chiyo. Hanzo got rid of the suction force and rushed toward Chiyo. Don't fool people, you old woman's physical ability is not weak. Because he knew that Chiyo's body was not as fragile as other puppet masters, he took off his mask, intending to use his poisonous gas to deal with the enemy. But before he could get close, he was sent flying by Garashi's giant rock fist. Like a stone on the river, Hanzo bounced up and down several times before he finally stopped his tumbling body and got up. He looked at Garashi with eyes full of surprise. You dare to fight me in close combat? Are you not afraid of death? Or do you have something to rely on? What do you think? Shushi followed him like a shadow, his hands clasped together like a heavy hammer. What a vile little devil! Hanzo hurriedly dodged. The hammer whistled in his ear, and with a boom sound, Hanzo felt the whole earth violently tremble. After he saw the collapsed ground from the corner of his eyes twitched. You should be a vile and violent little devil. But you underestimate this old man too much. Facing Shushi, who was close at hand, Hanzo formed a seal with one hand and used the water prison jutsu with his left hand to control Shushi, while his right hand pulled the chain sickle towards Shushi. You too, at least take care of this old woman. You're fighting so fiercely that I can't keep up with you. Although she said that, Chiyo's puppet was not slow at all. Under her control, it blocked the sickle with an extremely fast speed. However, Hanzo did not ignore her existence. The direction of the scythe happened to pass by the position of the salamander. Although the salamander was somewhat clumsy, in this case, it was still able to block the puppet for a moment. But after blocking for a moment, the 10 people couldn't catch up with the scythe. They could only helplessly watch as the scythe cut through the air, cut through the water prison, and then cut Garashi's body in half. Chiyo screamed, he died so miserably. Cut into 2 pieces. Oh, against this old man. Hanzo said with a startled look. Wait, 2 pieces. Hanzo hurriedly turned his head. In his line of sight, a fist was constantly enlarging, and then fiercely fell on his cheek. The next moment, Hanzo flew out like a cannonball with a loud bang. His whole body was embedded in the ground. Seeing this, the people of Hidden Rain on the battlefield couldn't believe it. How is this possible? That's Hanzo-sama. Sand Crypsis Ninja, who had dealt with Hidden Rain many times, was also secretly stunned. Even the legendary shinobi demigod was sent flying. Garashi leader is really too strong. Woodleaf Ninja's eyes lit up. Too powerful, worthy of our Woodleaf's hero. But soon, Hanzo jumped out of the huge hole, spitting out blood, and looked at the opposite side with calm eyes. Secret jutsu similar to Kirin's water transformation jutsu? This is not a smart decision. This old man's scythe is coated with poison, and the water transformation jutsu will integrate the poison into the body. Garashi raised his eyebrows. Poison all over the body? It sounds like I should use the advantage of being a poison man before I die. With that said, Garashi rushed towards Hanzo with a mutual destruction attitude. Hanzo naturally didn't dare to let Garashi get close. While he stopped Garashi, He made hand seals to summon a huge hemispherical water prison. Water release, great explosion shockwave. Looking at the small lake that appeared out of thin air in the center of the battlefield, the ninjas of the Alliance were stunned. Is this a joke? He actually created a lake on the plain. Is this still a ninja? Worthy of the legendary shinobi demigod. The range of this water prison was extremely large. Almost the moment it was summoned, the 4 puppets were trapped in the water. The movement of the puppets in the water was limited by the resistance, but Hanzo was moving as light as a fish in the water. And in the blink of an eye, one of the puppets was almost destroyed. Not only that, the lake was constantly moving towards Chiyo's position. It's really troublesome. Chiyo didn't have time to feel sorry for the puppets. She was thinking about how to deal with it when she saw a purple-red rain coming from behind the water prison. It's really amazing. One created a lake out of thin air, and the other easily made it rain. It really makes this old woman ashamed. Venom, torrential rain. Hanzo, who was trying to destroy the second puppet, suddenly felt that something was wrong. Why did he feel that the color of the water prison was changing? Looking back, Hanzo's whole body was not good. The raindrops mixed with Salamander's venom fell into the water prison, and at a very fast speed, the entire water prison was dyed purple-red. In this way, the name of the water prison was really not wrong, but not on the enemy but on himself. Hanzo, who felt that his hands and feet were a little numb, didn't have time to think. He directly detonated the explosive tag, using the power of the shockwave to blow himself out of the water prison, and then quickly bit the detoxification capsule that he had hidden in his mouth in advance. While feeling relieved, Hanzo couldn't help but secretly twitch his mouth. Why do I feel that using poison to deal with this kid is a mistake? However, as a demigod who has been famous for many years, his mind is naturally very strong. From the beginning until now, all the things that went wrong, at most, caused a slight ripple in his mind. After escaping the range of the venom, Hanzo quickly made hand seals and patted the ground. Water release, 100 Dragon Bullet Technique. The water prison that has been soaked into a poisonous lake was just a waste. Hundreds of purple-red venom dragons formed from the lake and ferociously bit towards Chiyo. You gave me this poison, do you think it's fun? Chiyo looked disgusted, but with a dignified look, she called back the 10 people in front of her. Puppet Jutsu, 10-way rotation. The powerful air cannon instantly bounced the air and collided with the venom dragons. With a loud bang, the terrifying air waves surged in all directions, and the venom dragons exploded one by one, turning into a large area of venom rain covering the entire battlefield. For a time, the battlefield was full of painful screams. Chapter 193. Even Hanzo, who had antibodies, couldn't withstand the poison. Even if it was diluted many times in the water, it was still not something that ordinary ninjas could resist. Therefore, when the poison fell from the sky, the battlefield that was originally filled with the sound of killing was covered with painful screams. Hanzo and Chiyo looked indifferent. They had experienced many wars, so they naturally didn't care about life and death. But Garashi's eyes were full of unbearable color. After hesitating for a moment, he touched his eyebrows with his thumb. The next moment, an unusually huge chakra was released from his body. Sensing the powerful aura of Garashi, Hanzo was vigilant. He was worried that Garashi was going to use a big move to end the battle as soon as possible. But he found that a super large slug was summoned by the opponent. Garashi said with a tired look, "Lake-sama, please split out and use my chakra to heal with Leaf and Sand Crypsis ninjas." The big slug's character was not as jumpy as the little slugs. It said with a gentle attitude, "I know, but is the situation really okay now?" "It's okay, please believe me." "Well, I understand." After that, the big slug split into countless little slugs and jumped toward the position of the poison ninjas on the battlefield. If it was a complete poison, such a simple long-range treatment certainly wouldn't work. But after diluting the poison, the toxicity was not that strong. At least it could stabilize the injury and prevent it from worsening. Wood Leaf ninjas who were treated were very moved. "Garashi, Sama didn't care about his own safety. In the face of a legendary enemy like Hanzo the Salamander, he still wasted chakra to heal them. This kind of sunshine made the cold rain-soaked bodies warm. As for the Sand Crypsis ninjas, they were moved to tears. As the battlefield commander, as Garashi, as the Woodleaf Ninja, in the face of a strong enemy, he wasted chakra to heal Woodleaf ninjas, but even they thought of it. Such breadth of mind and tolerance simply made them, who had previously questioned the village's decision, feel ashamed. At the same time, a group of Hidden Rain ninjas looked at their god with hopeful eyes, but they were doomed to be disappointed. Hanzo was too lazy to look at them. He just stared at Garashi. His eyes were full of uncontrollable joy. Really stupid. But this old man has to thank you for your stupidity. He has always used Chiyo as a breakthrough point. In addition to the fact that the puppeteer's body is relatively weak, it is more because of the information provided by Shushi, a monster-level ninja with the Flying Thunder God technique, and the ability to replenish chakra is not easy to deal with. But Garashi's chakra, the Flying Thunder God chakra Jetsu's chakra's Jetsu, may not be able to use Flying Thunder God Jetsu. Even Chiyo secretly frowned. Although I am very grateful to you for doing this, you are still too reckless. Garashi forced a smile and said, "Rest assured, I will not fall before defeating the enemy." While speaking, chakra refined from the ring on his pinky finger was constantly flowing into his body. This ring made from the body of Zero-Tailed was able to absorb the despair of the Hidden Rain ninjas to refine chakra. Although dark chakra has some hidden dangers, it is not a big problem for Garashi, who has been plucking fox for all year round. Kyubi chakra is far more ferocious than dark chakra when it is not controlled. Otherwise, it will not always be the representative of evil and ominous in the eyes of the world. Hanzo did not know that Garashi was playing him. After all, he has never even heard of Zero-Tailed. Moreover, in order to avoid being detected by the ability similar to Byakugan, Garashi deliberately controlled chakra to wander near the 8 gates in his body. Even if it is discovered, it will only be regarded as the hidden power in his body. This was a rare opportunity, so Hanzo waved the chain and threw the scythe tied to the end of the chain towards Shushi. Garashi quietly stood in place until the moment the scythe came. He slightly leaned his body to avoid the attack. Seeing Garashi easily avoided the attack, Hanzo was not surprised but happy. It seems to be an understatement, but in fact, there is a certain risk. Willing to take the risk to save physical strength and chakra, doesn't it mean that the opponent is about to reach his limit? Thinking of this, Hanzo no longer hesitated and attacked Garashi with all his strength. Water release, water shockwave. A super large water wave rushed to the sky, and then like a waterfall rushed toward Garashi. Really a troublesome little brat. Chiyo sighed, and the 9 puppets blocked in front of Garashi and launched a joint attack. The air cannon and the waterfall violently collided, intertwined, and turned into a huge waterspout connecting the sky and the earth. Looking at the raging waterspout on the battlefield, Hanzo's eyes showed a trace of fear. Even if it is him, if he is caught in it, he will not have a good end. At this time, a sound of breaking air came from behind. Hanzo quickly moved sideways. A stream of light flashed by, and it was Shushi who was rushing towards him. You dared to take the initiative to attack. You are decisive. Hanzo's eyes slightly narrowed. But this will only accelerate the speed of your candle in the wind extinguishing. Is it all in one throw? Chiyo whispered and sent out the remaining 9 puppets. Let this old woman cover you. Garashi twisted his body and kicked out his right leg like a whip. Hanzo raised his scythe to block the attack. But when he was about to counterattack, those puppets surrounded him. Seeing this, Hanzo had to use the body flicker technique to avoid the attack. Taking advantage of the time when the puppets and Garashi gathered together, Hanzo made a hand seal and patted the ground. Water release, great waterfall technique. Hanzo naturally did not think that this technique can bring any threat to them. So the moment he completed the hand seal, he replaced himself with a water clone, while his body merged with the waterfall. Seeing the raging waterfall rushing toward them, the puppets, like before, used their joint attack to break the waterfall. The next moment, The broken waterfall turned into a heavy downpour. Chiyo, who was guarding against Garashi's next move, was shocked to find that the raindrops falling from the sky turned into dozens of Hanzos, besieging Garashi. Chiyo was about to warn him, but she saw Garashi's reaction was faster than her. While using the flying thunder god to dodge, he also left a slug clone in place. Acid bomb. The clone exploded, turning into acid and exploding in the surrounding. Those water clones were nothing, but Hanzo's body issued an uncontrollable cry of pain. Even if he managed to avoid most of the acid, part of his cheek was still corroded, and his face was disfigured. Covering his injured cheek, Hanzo coldly said, "Damn brat, I really can't underestimate you." Garashi gasped for breath. "Sorry, I don't want to be defeated here, so I can only disappoint you." Seeing Garashi's appearance, Hanzo was secretly annoyed. This brat's combat experience and on-the-spot reaction were superb, so he could not scheme against him. Then what's the use of scheming? Can't he just use chakra to crush him? Chapter 194. Hanzo suddenly realized that compared to his previous self, the current him was thinking too much, calculating too much, so much so that he forgot his own beliefs. But this kid in front of him, at such a young age, his shining faith made him unable to look directly at him. So chakra was almost exhausted, but he was still able to fight this old man's strength? Taking a deep breath, Hanzo's eyes became firm again. "Kid, thank you for helping me find my lost self." Garashi was startled, his eyes were blank. What did he do? He always felt that Hanzo's mind was filled with something extraordinary. Water release, water dragon bite. A huge water dragon rushed out from the water. Hanzo stepped on the top of the water dragon and swooped down to bite Garashi. "Chiyo-senpai, please cover for me. You little brats are so desperate. It seems that this old woman has no choice but to go all out." With that, Chiyo controlled the 9 puppets in a special posture and directly transformed into the Gundam form. Of course, because one of the puppets was damaged, the transformation was not complete. But even so, the new giant puppet is already shocking enough, and many ninjas are looking at it with shining eyes. My god, what is that? It looks a bit cool. Chiyo-senpai actually has such a trick. It can be combined. Garashi was slightly surprised, and immediately jumped on the shoulder of the giant puppet. The giant puppet punched out, destroying the water dragon with a single punch. Hanzo stepped on the splashing water and leaped into the air, waving his scythe as he jumped towards Shueisha. Garashi slightly bent his legs and shot out like a cannonball. Kenjutsu flash. Monstrous strength unparalleled. At the place where the fist and the scythe met, a burst of air rippled. The next moment, a wave of air radiated in all directions. Many ninjas who were close to them were directly blown away. Even the giant puppet faintly swayed. But the 2 people in the battle were not affected at all. As soon as they fell to the ground, they unrelentingly met each other. In just a few seconds, the 2 collided dozens of times. Worthy to be the man who can directly suppress the Land of Iron's admiral. Without using Sage Mode, I'm definitely not his match in terms of physical skills. Garashi sighed in his heart. The other party is worthy of being a demigod standing at the top of the shinobi world. His strength is terrible. Even if he and Chiyo joined forces, it was difficult to gain the upper hand. However, Garashi did not belittle himself. His body was still growing, so it was unfair to compare him to Hanzo at his peak. Furthermore, it was only a physical technique. Even in this state, you can still fight this old man head-on without falling behind. Even the Sannin at your age are far inferior to you. Hanzo couldn't help but praise. Unfortunately, you're too naive. Water release, high-pressure water cannon. Immortal technique, concentrated Rasengan. Like a stubborn stone in a river, the Sage Method Rasengan split the highly compressed water cannon in the middle, and the water flowed to both sides. However, just as Garashi rushed straight to Garashi with the Rasengan in his hand, the Rasengan suddenly disappeared, and even the Sage mask on Garashi's face gradually faded. It was time. Out of Sage mode. Seeing this, Hanzo's mouth slightly raised. If I didn't guess wrong, your immunity to poison is because of Sage mode. Now you have. But before he could finish his sentence, Shushi's face, which had faded away, reappeared at an even faster speed. Suddenly, Hanzo's smile froze on his face. How can you use Sage Mode so quickly? No, why do you still have chakra? Hanzo's eyes widened. This was unreasonable. Faith can create miracles, Shushi said in a serious tone. After the anger, Hanzo calmed down. The pressure from Garashi in front of him was far less than before. Squeezing your life potential to enter the incomplete version of Sage Mode? Kid, you're really decisive. Garashi's expression was strange. Obviously, Hanzo thought that his one-time use of Sage Mode was a forbidden technique, like the Hashiman Tanku. But this was also good, he didn't have to explain. On the side, the giant puppet's right fist shot out like a rocket. Hanzo easily jumped away, while his left hand formed a seal, and his right hand brandished his sword to attack Garashi. For a while, the two of them fought again. However, Garashi was obviously at a disadvantage this time. After a few collisions, he was blasted away by Hanzo's water release. You finally reached your limit? Hanzo breathed a sigh of relief, but he didn't relax his vigilance. Instead, he used water release to continuously consume Garashi's physical strength. Seeing Garashi, who had beaten the enemy several times before, was now suppressed so miserably, the allied ninjas on the battlefield felt guilty. Garashi, Sama, take back your summon beast, you have done enough. Ordinary ninjas like us are not worthy of you doing this. Not only them, but even the ninjas of the Rain Country were moved. Is this guy really not afraid of death? Although it's stupid, it's also a stupid that deserves admiration. And this scene was also noticed by the two groups of people who were secretly observing. He can actually do this for those ninjas. In the distance, Yahiko was shocked. Perhaps this faith is what the Rain Country lacks. Protecting his companions at all costs? Conan pursed his lips. What a handsome man. What should I do? Should I save Garashi? After the shock, Yahiko said frantically. As a friend I should stand up, but no matter what, Hanzo is a person of the Rain Country. Just when Yahiko was in a dilemma, Nagato on the side said seriously, he will win. Yahiko was surprised and hurriedly asked, Garashi is holding back his strength? Nagato shook his head. I don't know. Yahiko's mouth twitched. Then why are you so sure? Didn't he say it already? The way to achieve peace is to end the war as soon as possible. Nagato firmly said. How can a person with this kind of awareness easily give up his life? Yahiko stared. You mean Garashi is not impulsive, but from the beginning he planned to save his companions and end the war at the same time. At the same time a black figure came out from the ground. That's it, hit him harder. Black Zetsu was ecstatic. He was worried about how to scheme against the other side, but the opportunity came to him. For him, as long as he is not completely dead, he can use Yin-Yang escape to save him. As long as I beat him to the brink of death, I'll be able to secretly possess his body and simulate the scent of his death. Then, I'll secretly move his corpse away. Hee, I've been unlucky for 1,000 years. It's time for me to be lucky. Chapter 195. Get rid of this hidden rain as soon as possible. Go support Garashi, Sama first. Noticing that Garashi was gradually showing signs of decline, dozens of allied jonins quickly left their battlefield to support him. Can't even stop a few people, what a waste. Hanzo was annoyed. With Leaf's advantage in manpower is too great. As a jonin, his subordinates can't stop him at all. However, you want to interfere with this old man's battle? Water release, Heaven Blade. The raindrops falling from the sky above the country of rain suddenly changed. They turned into incomparably sharp rain blades and shot down, at an extremely fast speed. The gap between jonin and jonin is sometimes bigger than the gap between jonin and genin. Just like Hanzo himself, he is nominally a demigod in the shinobi world, but in reality, he is also a jonin. But dealing with most of the jonins is just like playing around. Especially those promoted during the war. Most of them are fake. Except for a few jonins who can quickly form hand seals. The rest of the jonins were pierced by the rain blades in an instant, their bodies spurting blood, and they fell down screaming in pain. Seeing this, The allied jonins on the battlefield couldn't believe it. Defeating dozens of jonins in an instant. Is this the strength of a demigod? The fallen jonins were even more confused. When they saw Hanzo being suppressed, they thought that the other side was just SOSO. But now it seems that it was because the two opponents were too strong. Humph. Can't even withstand a single blow, Hanzo said indifferently. But suddenly his face changed, and he slashed with his katana. But Garashi seemed to have predicted it, and kicked Hanzo's right hand holding the katana, kicking the chain scythe away. Hanzo subconsciously reached out to grab it, but Garashi grabbed his right hand. Looking at his right hand clasped with Garashi's fingers, Hanzo was surprised, and at the moment he was absent-minded, his left hand was also clasped. The next moment, the huge puppet strode towards them. Seeing this scene, Hanzo suddenly said, "You want to abolish my ability to form hand seals? Ha, I've miscalculated this time. I forgot that you're not afraid of my poison gas. Unfortunately, you still underestimate me. Even if my hands are locked, as long as I can move one finger, I can still use ninjutsu." As he spoke, he raised a huge waterfall behind him and pushed the puppet away. Many ninjas felt despair in their hearts. He can even make hand seals with just one finger. Isn't this demigod too strong? After temporarily dealing with Chiyo's puppet, Hanzo turned around and saw Garashi with his mouth slightly open, seemingly preparing some kind of escape technique. He can also form seals with one finger. Hanzo was surprised, but soon he realized that something was wrong. No, his fingers didn't move at all. Is it a ninjutsu? Hanzo knew that Garashi's Rasengan was a ninjutsu, but he never heard that it could be shot from the mouth. With no time to think, Hanzo also quickly formed a hand seal. From the previous battle, he could tell that the other party was far more knowledgeable than him. But in terms of specialization, the other party was much weaker. In this case, there was no reason for him to lose. But when he formed the hand seal, Hanzo felt that something was wrong. The condensed energy form in Garashi's mouth was indeed very similar to Rasengan. But when he took a closer look, damn, isn't this a Bijadama? Why does an ordinary person have a Bijadama? Are you really a bijou in disguise? While cursing in his heart, Hanzo frantically twisted his body to get rid of the restraint. But Garashi's hands were like iron clamps that firmly fixed him. No matter how he struggled, he couldn't break free. Seeing Garashi Jade quickly formed, Hanzo could only sigh and closed his eyes to wait for death. The next moment, a sharp pain hit him, but the imagined scene of his brain being crushed didn't happen. Hanzo opened his eyes and looked down, only to see Garashi's right hand pierce through his chest. Was that just a genjutsu? To be precise, the Rasengan was mixed with Bija's aura, and the latter was. Hanzo coughed up blood and fell down, laughing at himself. Haha, I didn't expect this old man to lose to genjutsu. Seeing Hanzo fall down, the allied ninjas froze for a moment and then cheered loudly. Great, Hanzo was defeated. We won. However, there were many jealous people in these voices. Damn, that old man actually interlocked his fingers with Garashi-sama. Yes, I'm so envious. On the field, Hanzo stared at Garashi. You can burst out such a powerful strength in a desperate situation. Is this your belief? Although he didn't know what Hanzo was thinking, Garashi still said righteously, gasping for breath. Didn't I say before? I won't fall down until I defeat you. Looking at Shuishi's pained expression, but he still clenched his teeth and persevered. Chiyo was also shocked. He persevered to this point with faith alone. What a strong heart. Sure enough, I didn't lose to you, but to this old man who has lost his faith. Hanzo laughed twice and said in a carefree manner, cut off this old man's head. Since this old man gave Tsunade the title of Sannin many years ago, today, let this old man give you the title of Shinobi Demigod before I die. Hearing this, the whole battlefield was quiet. Shinobi Demigod, this is the title that stands at the top of the ninja world. The most important thing is that this title was given by Hanzo himself. To be recognized by the enemy like this, doesn't it mean that Garashi's strength has convinced the enemy? Thinking of this, the ninja allied forces were excited. As expected of Garashi-sama, he's really amazing. That's the title of the top ninja world. If it's Garashi-sama, we of San Crypsis will definitely recognize it. However, Garashi shook his head slightly. Let me correct a few of your mistakes. First, it's not just me who defeated you. Without the help of Chiyo-sama, the one who fell would have been me. Chiyo looked sideways and was surprised. This kid is calm enough. Not everyone can remain sober in front of such a great honor as shinobi demigod. Second, I don't like to be given by others. I will take what I want myself. Hanzo coughed blood and smiled. If it's you, it's not surprising that you have this kind of tolerance. Third, I won't kill you. As a reward for letting Tsunade-sensei go many years ago, I will let you go today. If it was before, hearing that Garashi was going to let such a big enemy go, let alone San Crypsis, even Woodleaf couldn't accept it. But now both sides of the alliance just cheered loudly. Regardless of his own safety, Garashi saved all of them, and finally turned the tide to defeat Hanzo. In their hearts, he is already a god. Whatever a god wants to do is naturally acceptable. What's more, if Sushi-sama can defeat Hanzo in this state, the result won't change much even if he does it again. Chapter 196. Hanzo looked at Garashi in shock. You don't want to kill me? In his opinion, wasn't Woodleaf's original plan to kill him, and then let the Akatsuki take over the Rain Country? Garashi shook his head slightly. Only this time. If you choose to block our way again, you won't be so lucky next time. After all, the Rain Tiger comfort technique hasn't been obtained yet. How can the scapegoat leave early? Hanzo didn't care about his words, but his face was fierce, and his heart was in pain, as if it was bitten by a poisonous snake. Damn it! I was deceived by those brats. They deliberately found Woodleaf, and pretended to be Woodleaf's puppets to provoke a fight between me and Woodleaf, and then borrow Woodleaf's hand to kill me. What a terrible scheme. Thinking of his previous evaluation of those three brats, Hanzo only felt a chill in his heart. This is not naive. This is simply sinister. Even a schemer like him was deceived. Hanzo took a deep breath and looked at Garashi with a serious face. As long as you are still in Woodleaf, I will not stand opposite to Woodleaf. Chiyo was shocked. She knew how proud Hanzo was. Even the 5 great shinobi villages Kage was never put in his eyes. In fact, without the support of the 5 great shinobi villages, at least, their Kazekage is absolutely not qualified to talk to Hanzo on an equal level. But such a proud and powerful man, in front of Garashi, said to retreat. However, she can also understand Hanzo's helplessness. One is the rising sun. One is the setting sun. This time he was defeated by Garashi, and in the future it is even more impossible. Instead of suffering in despair, it is better to recognize the fact early. Thinking of this, Chiyo faintly sighed. Next is the era of the young, and his era. Garashi didn't care about the meaning of Hanzo's words. He just turned around and shouted, "Stop fighting, the war is over." The Hidden Rain ninjas quickly put down their weapons with a relaxed look on their faces. Their courage was completely shattered the moment Hanzo fell. At the same time, Yahiko said in an exaggerated tone, "Amazing. Hanzo was really defeated by Garashi." Konan covered her mouth and exclaimed, "And he actually let Hanzo go. Killing will only make hatred grow." Yahiko laughed with his arms akimbo. "It seems that our persuasion last time worked." Nagato, on the other hand, seemed to have opened the door to a new world. He muttered to himself, "Power is the fastest way to end the war, and ending the war as soon as possible can protect peace. So the way to protect peace is to obtain great power?" In a corner of the battlefield, Black Zetsu gritted his teeth and said, "Damn it, he's so close. What demigod? He's far worse than Hashirama. However, he should be almost at his limit now." Black Zetsu was eager to try, but he quickly dispelled the crazy idea in his mind. He wasn't discovered by his 2 brothers. Isn't he relying on the word hide? Forget it, I'll wait for him to go to the Rock Crypsis battlefield. One day later, in the land of Earth. In the Jonin meeting, everyone was happy. Haha, Woodleaf suffered a big loss this time. Not to mention them. Even we didn't expect Rashi to use Bijidama. It's a pity that Rashi said that his current practice is not enough, and he can only use 2 Bijidama at a time. That's enough. At least the morale of the mercenaries and the wandering ninjas is much higher. I didn't expect that guy's practice to have some effect. Inoki nodded with satisfaction and immediately felt a little regret. It's a pity that Han can't do this. Magic Leech echoed. Han's strength is indeed very strong, but this kind of thing requires the cooperation of the bijou. Bijudama can be used in both the human form and the bijou form. The difference is that the human form has a high requirement for chakra to use bijudama. As for the bijou form, if the bijou doesn't cooperate, the possibility of losing control is very high. Once the bijou is out of control on the battlefield, it's possible to attack without distinguishing between friend and foe. That's why they haven't been able to use bijudama like Yunin. At this time, Hokuto hesitated and asked. I heard that in the Yunin battlefield, Minato and Shimizu Garashi used the Flying Thunder God Jetsu to transfer bijudama. If they use this trick again, and even transfer bijudama to our side, don't worry, as long as we drag Danzo and Raza on this battlefield, they won't be able to change the defense. Inoki laughed. With Hanzo's strength, Shimizu Garashi and Chiyo's combination will have a hard time containing him. If Shimizu Garashi dares to leave alone, then they won't be able to take the Rain Country's battlefield. At that time, we will join up with Hanzo. As he said that, a Chunin rushed in with a panicked expression. Suchikage-sama, the Rain Country has surrendered to Woodleaf. Inoki's face instantly became gloomy. Bastard, that Hanzo guy still dares to act. It doesn't seem to be an act. He was spared by Shimizu Shushi, said the ninja, trembling with fear in his voice. As his voice fell, the entire conference room was in an uproar. How is that possible? That's Hanzo the Salamander. That kind of person who stands at the top of the ninja world. How could he lose to a kid? They can question Hanzo's character, but they absolutely can't doubt his strength. Even the Kage of the 5 great shinobi villages didn't have the title of shinobi demigod, so his strength can be seen. At least, Hanzo is more credible than some of the Woodleaf ninjas, who boasted that Sandame Naruto is the god of shinobi. Inoki asked in a deep voice. What the hell is going on? The ninja who reported shook his head. I'm not very clear. It seems that Shimizu Garashi can restrain Hanzo's poison. Inoki's expression was still very dignified. Although Hanzo's poison is one of the reasons why he can sit on the demigod throne, it's definitely not the only reason. Hanzo's taijutsu and water release are also terrifying. Being able to defeat him only shows that Shimizu Garashi is beyond the concept of terrifying. Shimizu Garashi, why is this kind of genius always born in Woodleaf? The ninjas on the field were also in a heavy mood. Being able to defeat Hanzo, even if it was with the help of Chiyo, the impact is definitely more terrible than defeating the 7 ninja swordsmen. When this news came, the mercenaries and wandering ninjas were estimated to be shaken. After all, these people were recruited from the nearby small countries, so they naturally know the strength and horror of Hanzo the Salamander. More importantly, Shimizu Garashi was released from the Rain Country battlefield, which means that the bijudama can't be used casually. Thinking of this, the Jonins had a headache. With the addition of Shimizu Garashi, how did the situation of the war change? We must take advantage of Shimizu Garashi's arrival to expand our advantage. Inoki suddenly said with a serious face. Wait, when was the news of Hanzo's defeat? The ninja who reported said. It seems to be a day ago. Kitsuchi slammed the table and said angrily. Why did we receive the news so late? Inoki waved his hand tiredly. Don't blame them. If I didn't guess wrong, the delay in the information should be the doing of our ally. Now let's think about how to deal with the extra ninja coalition. Chapter 197. In the front line of the Earth Country, in the temporary war conference room, Danzo's face was gloomy. Who can tell me? When did the Yonbi Jinchuriki join the war? Also, why can he use the bijudama? Ryoma echoed. The heavy losses caused by this failure are entirely due to the intelligence unit's mistake. Inoichi frowned. The intelligence unit is indeed responsible, but to say that it was entirely our mistake. Sorry, Intelligence has its limits. That's a tactical mistake. If the commander didn't arrange himself on the Rain Country battlefield, he could have used the flying thunder god jutsu to change all this. Raza said coldly. It is the best choice to let Sir Soseki and Elder Chiyo deal with Hanzo the salamander. If it were anyone else, they would need at least twice their combat power to achieve the same effect. Ryoma said sarcastically. The Kazekage-sama is very clear about the Commander Garashi. Pakura smiled contemptuously. I heard that it was you who proposed that the person who could facilitate the cooperation between the two sides was a hero. Now that the hero isn't Gugu, you want to throw dirty water? Oil Lady Dragon Horse's eyes widened. This bastard actually copied Qingshui Shushi and used his words to shut him up. Just as his mouth was about to escalate into a fight, a familiar voice suddenly came from the outside. Oh, this meeting is really lively. Everyone turned around and saw Garashi and Chiyo coming in one after the other. Garashi, why are you here? Inoichi asked, and suddenly his face changed. Did Hanzo break through your blockade and join the Rock Crypsis? Ryoma suddenly became active. Huh? No way. The commander's battlefield can't even. Shut up, you naggy brat. Chiyo squinted. Do you think we're the same as you waste? Fighting a war. And in the end, suffering heavy losses? Ryoma's mouth twitched. This old woman is really annoying. Raza asked. Elder Chiyo, did you win the war? Although he was also scolded, he was used to being despised and didn't care. Chiyo calmly said. The Rain Country has already surrendered. Pooh. Cough. Gurgle gurgle. For a moment, all kinds of choking sounds could be heard. They had thought that they had won the war by stages. How did they end up accepting the surrender so quickly? Raza suspiciously said. Elder Chiyo, now is not the time to joke around. Chiyo's eyelids drooped. Hanzo was almost killed. Is it strange for them to surrender? This time, even Danzo couldn't stay calm. What, Hanzo was almost killed? Raza took a deep breath and asked. Elder Chiyo, what's going on? Chiyo said with an impatient face. It's probably Byung, you hit me, I hit you, and then he was knocked down by this kid. Hearing Chiyo's abstract description, everyone was speechless for a while. Who the hell said Byung in a fight? Seeing everyone's eyes on him, Garashi smiled reservedly. Although there was an element of luck, Hanzo was indeed defeated by me and Chiyo-san. Hearing Garashi say so, there was a sudden gasp in the conference room. Then, they looked at Garashi with a strange look in their eyes. A few days after coming to the Western Front, Garashi defeated Danzo, the demigod of the shinobi world. The people of San Crypsis knew that Garashi also defeated Sasori of the Red Sand, and the puppet Kazekage. Is this a legendary weapon? Fugaku couldn't help but praise. With the news of Garashi, Sama defeating Hanzo, the negative impact of this defeat will be minimized. Yamanaka and Noichi also agreed. With Hanzo the Salamander's power, once this news is spread, it will greatly reduce the morale of the mercenaries recruited by Rock Crypsis. Ryoma Aburame laughed twice and corrected. It should be Garashi, Sama and Elder Chiyo who defeated Hanzo the Salamander. Fugaku knew that he had misspoken. It's my negligence. Chiyo waved her hand dispiritedly. This old woman only covered for a few times. Adding me in will make me look like a joke. Besides, our San Crypsis owed him a big favor this time. Don't let me get scolded behind my back. Raza was puzzled. A big favor? Chiyo explained. It's all because of that old guy Hanzo playing with poison. 1/3 of the ninjas on the battlefield were poisoned. This kid used the slug jutsu to teleport chakra and saved with Leaf and our San Crypsis. Garashi, Sama, if you want to thank me, I'll. Raza was brewing his emotions, but suddenly his eyes widened. Wait, you can still defeat Hanzo? The rest of the people looked at Garashi with horror in their eyes. He could still defeat Hanzo after saving half of the ninjas on the battlefield. Is this something a human can do? Ryoma Aburame was secretly horrified. This kid's strength and reputation are getting higher and higher. If I continue like this, won't I hurt Danzo-sama? Danzo was also nervous. Why do I feel that this kid is more difficult to deal with than Hiruzen? If this goes on, won't this old man be his deputy for the rest of his life? Just as Garashi was about to say a few more words, An intelligence ninja came to report, Garashi, Sama Danzo-sama, that Tsuchikage is attacking us with the army of rock Crypsis. They dared to take the initiative to attack. Danzo coldly snorted and asked, how many of them are coming? I don't know. In short, there are a lot of them. The intelligence ninja panicked. At least 15,000. What? Why so sudden? The old Tsuchikage is crazy. He's going to attack us. Everyone present couldn't believe it. Which decisive battle wasn't probing and probing? How could it be so sudden? Garashi rubbed his fingertips and muttered. They are most likely worried that the news of the defeat of the Rain Country will distract the people. So they launched the attack in advance, intending to use the mercenaries and wandering ninjas to consume our strength. Everyone looked dignified. Indeed, what they can think of that Tsuchikage can naturally think of. If the rock Crypsis is unwilling to sit back and watch the mercenaries and wandering ninjas become a hidden danger, the best way is to let them play a role in advance. Inoki is really ruthless, Danzo said with disdain. All the Jonins looked strange. Danzo, Sama seems to be the least qualified to say such words, right? Garashi knocked on the table, making them look over. The rock Crypsis came too fast. There is no time to adjust the tactics too much. You should continue with the previous arrangement. As for me, with me here, the Yonbi Jinchuriki shouldn't dare to use the Bijidama. But to be cautious, I will deal with him. Chapter 198. Just as everyone in the conference room quickly agreed on the mission, two loud noises came from the outside. Then the earth trembled violently, and a strong shock wave swept through the camp, blowing the surrounding trees. The group of Jonins quickly stabilized their bodies and asked in bewilderment, what happened? Didn't you say that rock Crypsis is still far away? Did a spy sneak in and plant a bomb to deliberately create chaos? Soon an intelligence ninja came in and reported. It was rock Crypsis who fired the Bijidama from a distance. But fortunately, they couldn't aim, so the casualties are negligible. Hearing that the casualties were small, everyone relaxed. What is this? Is this a show of strength before the war? What an arrogant declaration of war. Raza shook his head slightly. They should know that the existence of Garashi will reduce the deterrence of the Bijidama. So they used it in advance to affect the morale of our ninjas. The intelligence ninja nodded again and again. It may be because of the tragic casualties yesterday. Everyone's mood is a little unstable. The Tsuchikage is really decisive. As soon as he confirmed that the Bijidama might be ineffective, he directly made a decision. Garashi sighed. Everyone secretly nodded. An enemy like the Tsuchikage is really difficult to deal with. If it was them, they may not have the courage to use this kind of battlefield killing machine. Fugaka frowned. Is there any way to improve the morale as soon as possible? Inoichi pondered for a moment and shook his head. A speech may be possible, but the time is too short. It's too late. Let me do it. Garashi strode to the outside and controlled chakra to spread his voice. Everyone, I am the commander of the coalition forces, Shimizu Garashi. Time is tight. I only have one sentence to say. In the case of short time, it's impossible for him to make a long speech. At this time, there's no need to talk about principles. There's no need to play any emotional card. As long as there are successful cases, and use the most convincing example to let them see the hope of victory. On the battlefield of Yunin, I blocked their perfect Jinchuriki. On the battlefield of Kirin, I eliminated Kirin's 7 legendary swordsmen. On the battlefield of Hidden Rain, I defeated Hanzo the Salamander and accepted his surrender. And now, I will lead you to victory. Hearing Garashi's speech, everyone in the camp was stunned, and their eyes were full of disbelief. Is this record true? It's too exaggerated. Is this really something that a human being can do? Shu-sama isn't a tailed beast, is he? Most of them only knew part of Shushi's story, but they could ask and exchange information with each other. After the exchange, the whole camp was boiling. The gloomy atmosphere dissipated, and almost everyone looked at the handsome figure with adoration. That's amazing. With Master Sashi leading us, we will definitely win. Ninja Garashi, Sama is too reliable. Yunin and Kirin lost, Even the shinobi demigod was defeated by Garashi-sama. A mere rock crypsis is not a problem at all. Seeing how Soseki managed to stir up everyone's emotions with just a few words, all the jonins were shocked. This kind of prestige and power, even the village Kage doesn't have it. Moreover, although they understand the principle of this speech, there is no way to replicate it. After all, it depends on the success of the individual. Danzo was envious, but at the same time he was depressed. He didn't have any achievements to show. If he had to say something, does forcing White Fang to death count? When it came to messing with one's own people, he was quite experienced. Raza was also bitter. His contribution to the Sand Crypsis is great, but it's not convincing at all. Do you want him to say that he, Raza, has been mining for many years, has rich experience, and will lead you to become rich? Everyone sighed in their hearts, and all the ninjas gathered together and rushed to the battlefield valiantly. At the border of the land of Earth, among the marching ninja army, Sachikage-sama, this kind of decisiveness is really not something we can compare with. Hey, Woodleaf must be in chaos now. They must think that we will leave the Baijidama on the battlefield, and they are dumbfounded. Listening to everyone's flattery, Inoki was very happy. The so-called tactics are to turn the factors that are disadvantageous to us into factors that are advantageous to us under certain circumstances. Just like the morale, they must be thinking about how to use that news to attack our morale, so we will advance. Inoki's voice stopped, and he turned to look at the forest in front of him. The dense army of ninjas poured out of the forest. Not only the formation was not disordered, but even their faces didn't show the slightest sign of depression. Instead, their morale was high. What's going on? Inoki wondered. Are the ninjas of Woodleaf and Sand Crypsis getting more and more excited? A ninja with good hearing came over and said, Sachikage-sama, it seems to be because of that Shimizu Garashi. I heard those ninjas shouting his name as they walked. Why is it him again? Why is he everywhere? Inoki's forehead was blue, and now he finally understood Reikage and Mizukage's feelings. Or rather, sympathy. In just a few days, his blood pressure has increased a lot. Yunin and Kirin, who have been tortured by this little devil for 2 years, their mentality is estimated to have exploded a long time ago. Standing opposite the rock crypsis, Garashi came out of the crowd. Sachikage-sama. However, Inoki didn't even have the slightest intention of talking before the battle, and directly ordered, Lava Release Team first, Fire Release Team ready to replace. He didn't despise Garashi, but he was worried that they would spread the news of Hanzo's defeat before the battle. If the battle starts directly, even if the news is released, it will be easily covered by the sound of fighting on the battlefield. Hearing Inoki's order, a team of lava ninjas quickly stood up. Lava Release, Rock Volcano. As a Kekii Jinkai of Rock Crypsis, their lava attack is naturally very powerful. The lava spewed out like a lava waterfall hanging upside down in the sky. Just a little closer, you will feel the illusion of being burned by the high temperature. Water Release Team go. Water Release, Water Shockwave. The water spit out by thousands of water ninjas almost converged into a river and rushed to the lava waterfall. Whoosh whoosh, the water evaporated into a white mist covering the battlefield, and in the mist, there was the sound of lava condensing into rocks falling to the ground. Seeing this situation, both sides didn't have any gap in between the two sides. Fire Release Team, use Great Fireball Technique. Wind Release Team, use Great Breakthrough. Flames and wind intertwined into a fire vortex, and then into a roaring fire tornado. In this battlefield where thousands of ninjutsu were fighting, even Shursui didn't dare to go out at will. He could only stay in the formation and command everyone to fight. You're tuning in to the Journey of the Soul YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.